welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the YuGiOh archetype from Power of the Elements. Unfortunately, I don't have actual good shots of all of the cards pulled, so we're going with images plus text. If you were looking for like full, clean, like high-res shots, we should hopefully have those relatively soon. But there haven't been too many boxes opened yet, and I just tried to make the best of what we have. So let's get into it. We've talked about YuGiOh of the Deep Beyond before, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on him. But if you missed that video when this was announced, I'll go ahead and just briefly recap the effect, and we can certainly see how it is definitely going to be a much better card than initially thought with this new support. So let's read it here. 1 or more fish tuners plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. The original attack of this card becomes 500 times the number of banished monsters. If this card is synchro summoned during your opponent's turn, you can banish all cards on the field. During the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished from the monster zone, you can special summon this card. So, it brings itself back, it banishes, it's like a better version of Topologic Zeraboros. We talked about this card in detail. I'll put a link in the description down below to that video if you wanted to see it. But at the time, one of the biggest complaints that I had was that there's no fish tuners that can feasibly bring this out, and I think it's safe to say that that has changed. So, let's take a look at the newest YuGiOh cards that were actually released, starting off with this one. Pace's Light of the YuGiOh is a level 2 fish tuner monster, water attribute of course, with 0 attack and 0 defense. It says you can banish this card you control. Special summon 1 fish monster from your hand, except Pace's Light of the YuGiOh. During the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. During your opponent's main phase, if this card was special summoned this way, you can quick effect. Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster using this card you control. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So basically, it's on your field, you banish it, you special any fish from hand, and then during the next standby phase, meaning your opponent's standby phase typically, you bring it back, at which point you're then able to quick synchro during the opponent's main phase, which is how you bring out your synchro. And because this is a quick effect, you do have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can pull that off. And let's not forget that just banishing it to special a fish monster from hand is a pretty cool interaction too, specifically because of the first card that comes to mind is Super Ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth, obviously a very old card that is not as good anymore as people once regarded it to be, but it still has a lot of potential, and I mentioned Coelacanth in the original video too. This basically allows you to drop it from the hand for free, so maybe this card's going to have more than one application or sort of path if people decide to play with it, because you absolutely can use this to bring Coelacanth out far more easily, provided you can get it to the hand. So, overall, really solid here. It's an ultra rare. It's definitely going to be like the most impactful non-extra deck monster for the archetype. Just being able to summon from hand, being able to bring itself back, and then, of course, giving you access to the quick synchro. This is going to be a really good piece for the deck. Next up, we've got Schiff, Fairy of the YuGiOh, again, level 2 water fish tuner, 0 attack, 500 defense. It says you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 fish monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. During the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. During your opponent's main phase, if this card was special summoned this way, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster using this card you control. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So it's similar to the ultra rare that we just discussed. However, the difference is this one banishes itself from grave to buff a fish monster. Obviously a lot less impactful than being able to summon any fish from hand, but they can't all be that good. And obviously if you could banish this from grave to special a fish from hand, it would be a lot more powerful. There has to be some balance in the archetype, and we'll find out over time whether or not they're going to balance them too much, or if they're going to get more support, because we do know that the next core set will have more YuGiOh cards as well. So we've got 2 tuners, 1 specials from hand, 1 buffs by banishing from grave. Both give you the ability to go into your synchro with a quick effect during the opponent's turn, and both do have self-recursion. No matter how they're banished, they can special summon themselves back. So there's obvious synergies with things like Gold Sarcophagus and other cards like Aqua Spirit, adjacent cards that can like special themselves by banishing. Doesn't matter how it's banished, it just matters that it was banished, and that is going to be key going forward. Next up, we've got Enoch Sentry of the YuGiOh, and this is a level 6 water fish effect monster, 2100 attack and 0 defense. It is not a tuner, because obviously these fish do need something to synchro with, and it says if this card is normal or special summon, you can target one of your banished level 4 or lower fish monsters, special summon it in defense position, but negate its effects. you could banish one fish monster from your hand or face-up field, add one Goatee trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So, there are plenty of cards that allow you to special summon fish from the hand, bypassing their restrictions, including the new one that we just showed, Paces, earlier. This card basically allows you to manipulate those effects while also giving you a Goatee monster that can bring back your banished stuff, but also allows you to search, and it's just kind of a decent overall option for the deck. I definitely don't think it's going to be something played in multiples, but there is that fact that there aren't a ton of level 6 fish monsters, and if you really want to make the levels work in the most accurate way possible, a level 2 fish tuner plus this level 6 is going to be kind of necessary. It's not like you can just do a 4-4 quick synchro during the opponent's turn. Next up is Oscon, the bicorn Goatee, and I apologize for the weird coloration on the image. It was just the best screen grab I could get, so hopefully they'll get some better ones a bit later. This is a level 8 water fish synchro effect monster. It is a 2700 attack, 0 defense, and it requires 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. It says if this card is synchro summoned, you can target 1 fish monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. Banish them. If this card is banished, you can banish 1 fish monster from your graveyard, special summon this card. You can only use each of the effects once per turn. So, it's a generic level 8 synchro that when summoned can banish a fish and a card the opponent controls, which is definitely really good. Being able to have additional options to go into during either player's turn, if you don't necessarily just want to wipe the board, is definitely good. And I'm honestly kind of surprised this is a common, because it feels like a really solid piece of support, just as a decent generic synchro that can, worst case scenario, banish itself. It almost gives like Scrap Dragon vibes. Typically you're not going to want to do that, obviously, because you want to be able to trigger your Goatee effects by banishing stuff, and we'll see as we get more Goatee cards in the upcoming set after this, whether or not there are even more effective ways to combo with this card. But if it's banished, you can banish a fish in your grave to bring it back, so it's a self-recurring synchro. Of course, it does not get to trigger its, you know, if this card is synchro summoned effect when it's brought back that way, but it's kind of, again, understandable why. This is definitely pretty good. It's obviously not as good as the Secret Rare, but I do think it shouldn't be slept on because it's pretty solid overall as far as water fish synchros go. Not that that's a huge card pool, but you get the point. Next up, we've got the most distant, deepest depths. That one's really hard to say 3 times fast. Field spell that says, while you control a fish synchro monster, this card cannot be destroyed or banished by card effects. Little built-in Cosmic Cyclone protection there. You can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. You can banish 1 fish monster from your hand or graveyard, add a Goatee monster from your deck to your hand. If a fish monster or monsters is normal summoned to your field or special summoned while this card is in your graveyard, you can target a fish monster you control, banish it, and if you do, add this card to your hand. So, it's a searcher for the archetype, it's self-recurring, and it can't be popped or destroyed while it's on the field, and you control a fish synchro. It's not the craziest field spell we've ever seen, but it definitely does a decent amount for the archetype, especially because it does allow you to fix some of your dead hands by banishing a fish to search a Goatee, and if you have really good hand scenarios, you can actually use this to set up, you know, the Enoch, which is the non-tuner, and be able to have valid targets for it while also searching. I like it. It's pretty good. A hard once per turn. It's definitely not the craziest field spell support we've seen for an archetype, but definitely not worth sleeping on either. I do think it has at least some application until we get some better spells or traps that go along with it. And lastly, we have Goatee Chain, which of course is searchable by Enoch. It's the only Goatee trap that's been revealed so far, but the way that's worded leads me to believe there might be more in the future. And it says, banish 1 face-up fish monster you control. Special summon 1 of your Goatee monsters that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard, with a different original name from the monster banished to activate this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only activate 1 Goatee Chain per turn. So banish a fish, special summon a banished Goatee, or a Goatee from your hand, deck, or graveyard with a different name. It's pretty solid because it's searchable, and it does allow you to get to which ones you need. The fact that it can bring back the synchros is kind of cute, although I don't think it's going to be beneficial to do that all that often. This may get better with time if we get more Goatee monsters that are actually worth playing it for, but overall, I would say maybe a one of, if even, at the current time, because I just don't think it does a ton. It does, though, kind of put you in a scenario where you kind of have to play it because of the limited card pool for the archetype so far. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I'm really excited about the Goaties because I actually think it's a pretty good TCG exclusive archetype, and I do love fish monsters. So there might be some hybrid decks with this and sharks, things that lock you into fish. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think this is going to be good? Do you think we need to wait on more support? It definitely feels like it's getting off to the right foot, and it's not going to just flounder, but we'll have to see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you do enjoy the content and the conversation, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon to stay notified with all the most up-to-date things, and I will catch you in the next one.